What's up, fam? I can't believe we're still here debating who started breaking. But I'm going to solve this question once and for all. Because you still got these people out here talking about Latinos and blacks did it together. What they really mean is Puerto Ricans started breaking. They're just going to make it sound like we did it together. But the truth of the matter is, without question, Black Americans created breaking. What I'm going to do is provide clear proof from a book that I featured about 2 months ago. A few months back, I introduced this book to you guys. It's The Birth of Breaking by Midas Abrahamian. And what this gentleman does, he basically talks about the origins of breaking. And he concluded that it was Black Americans. And what he also does, which is very unique, he used the words of Puerto Ricans themselves to establish that fact. And so what we're going to do, I'm going to walk through several quotes in this particular book that's going to prove beyond any doubt that Black Americans created breaking. This whole notion that it started 50-50, I'm going to put that to rest in this particular video. Now, Saru Abrahamian, he appeared on a YouTube channel called The Trades by Profo One. He's a 49-year-old B-boy. And they talked about this book, but then there was a particular part where he was accepting questions from the chat. And would you know it, the one and only Dr. Cologne asked a question. And so I want you to listen to this question and this answer.
Dr. Derek from Urban Exegesis asks, here's my question. You said in your book that Puerto Ricans did not come on the scene until a decade later. When did Puerto Ricans come on the scene? When did Puerto Ricans come on the scene?
Well, I mean, it's not really me saying it, like I'm not in a position to say it. I'm quoting practitioners,
Okay.
So pretty much I don't know if it's a consensus.
Who answered that question? Who's the practitioner? Who are you quoting when you say that?
Well, yeah, let me it's like people talk about, oh, the OGs don't agree. Let's not even talk to like African American practitioners. Wiggles, Legs, Track, Ken Swift, Fable, all these pioneers we look up to, JoJo, Batch. I can't think of an exception to it, actually. They're all on record talking about the African American beginnings of the dance, like referring to it. So I'm noticing that and going, let me dig into it. Then I talk to African Americans. They all kind of, not in a exclusionary way. This is their personal experience. They know the narrative, for example, like African American practitioners know that like the narrative out there was like Latinos dominated breaking and all this stuff. And they respect the contributions. They're all on record giving props to them. But they're also know and experience of just like you have your experience of vibing out as a freestyle dancer and then, building with grams and all this stuff. Whatever the narrative is on TV and books, that's your story. So it's hard to go against that. Mm-hmm. So they, not in the desire to exclude, but this is their experience. But it was mostly African Americans, like in the early days. This is not really a dispute that I know of, So when did they come on the scene? I mean, it's hard to pinpoint, like on this date, August 19th, 1978 or whatever. But it's like the late 70s, like 77, 78 seems like when there was more cross-pollination. Basically, when these parties started coming outside, when more DJs started coming around. So you had like Herc dominating the scene, and then you had like Flash in the mix. Then you had, Bam and then Zulu coming around, basically around 76, 77. But after that, more DJs started emerging and started throwing jams outside. And that seems like the impetus for other people getting involved in the culture.
Okay.
Now, the answer Midas gave there is pretty direct and right to the point. He basically said, just ask the early Latino breakers, and they will tell you where breaking comes from. Now, let's look at some examples that Midas lays out in his book. Now, let me tell you what's great about his book. He quotes a number of these early Latino practitioners, and he provides the sources and documents that back up each statement. The sources are provided either by way of articles, books, interviews, video, sometimes personal contact that he had. All right. And out of their own mouths, you will hear these Latino B-boys tell you where they got the dance from. They will all say Black Americans. Mr. Wiggles is already on record saying that Blacks were the first to do footwork, were the first B-boys. And I think you guys saw the video I played of him saying that. So I'm not going to play that. What I'm going to do is provide a small excerpt out of Midas's book and how Mr. Wiggles felt about breaking at the time he became a B-boy. All right, Mr. Wiggles said this. Along the same lines, numerous Latino practitioners recall being scolded by their community for allegedly abandoning their heritage. My mom used to call me a light-skinned black blah, blah, blah. Mr. Wiggles from the Rocksteady crew is quoted as saying, that was just another generalization they didn't understand. Here's another Latino B-boy named Bomb 5. I'm going to show you the quote within the book, and then I'm going to play an audio clip supporting the quote. I went to the park jams because you had to be older to go to the house parties or inside anywhere. He went on to explain that he would find out about these parties from his mentor, pioneering African-American B-boy El Dorado Mike. Just to see these original B-boys rock mostly on top routines and stuff was kind of dope, Bond remembered. It just opened my eyes to everything by expanding into more public arenas. In the late 1970s, hip-hop allowed its juke joint-based expressions to resonate with Latino youth living in the same working-class neighborhoods. However, even prior to this expansionary period of the dance, there was a small number of Latinos associated with hip-hop, yet they tended to be mostly dark-complexioned individuals who passed as Black. In other words, they were down by law.
Well, not much of the MC. I didn't see this,
Okay.
But definitely the dancing was already there. The dancing, you're right. When I went to Cedar Park, the first time I ever saw someone speak on the mic, Cochlear Rock. El Dorado Mike called me one day because, Cool Herc was doing his parties, and I was already going to Bronx River and Bronxdale Projects. And they had Disco King Mario over there, DJ Tex, and all them guys, man. And that's where the original Zulu Kings came from, too. Between Bronx River and Bronxdale Projects.
Okay.
The Charlie Rock and them guys. But, I used to move around a lot, met a lot of people, and got involved with this. But with the Cool Herc thing, it was El Dorado Mike that called me one day. He's an older cat. He's older than me. Way older. I looked up to him, and he mentored me about the streets and about dance and what was going on. So it was like a new thing for me, a new way to see. And he was a dope B-boy. Later on, he became a real dope hustle dancer. In the beginning, he was a B-boy with Phase 2, his best friend. And they both used to write together. He wrote El Dorado Mike, Phase 2, The other brother that helped me out at the same time was my boy Cisco Kid with an S. He was a B-boy MC. He was part of the original Cold Crush before the kid became the 4.
Okay.
They were only 3. And he was real close with Tony Tone,
Describe a Cool Herc party to me.
I never went to the party. I went to the park jam because you had to be older to go to the house party or inside anywhere. That's why when El Dorado Mike called me, he said, "Yo, Bron, they're doing it in the park now. Anyone could go." And that's when I got on my bike, my Apollo 5, and speed my ass all the way from the East Bronx. Yeah, I speed my way from the East Bronx all the way to Burnside Avenue to go see what was going on down there. Yeah, I don't even know how to explain it. We just saw mad people all around just dancing, chilling, and vibing, just to see like these original b-boys that just rock mostly on top and did routines and stuff. It was kind of dope. It just opened my eyes to everything.
And let me ask you this, man. When you hear people like, I heard this argument. When people try to separate Puerto Ricans from the beginning roots of hip hop, like how can they do that? Like,
I'm sure we all heard of Pop Master Fable. Let's see what he has to say about his humble beginnings. All right, also from the book, early Latino hip hop dancer Jorge Pop Master Fable Baban similarly describes ethnic tension in Spanish Harlem. When he first got involved in hip hop, there was a time when there was some racial tension. Certain black folks would look at us and say, "Why are you trying to do our thing?" And then there were times when we would diss ourselves, like, "Why are you trying to do the Coca-Cola thing?" And then we had our parents in the older generation, older sisters and brothers saying, "Why are you dressing like the Coca-Cola? Why do you want to be like them?" Man, it was hard. Let's give credit where credit is due. Crazy Lake is at least on the record saying that hip hop comes from Black American culture. He also says that the original style of breaking is the Moreno style, and we know what that means, Black American. Of course, there's others out there who's saying, "Oh, he didn't mean that." But let me read a particular quote from Midas' book where Crazy Lake discuss how he first saw or how he viewed breaking at first. But the paragraph starts with something that track 2 says. But I'm going to talk about track 2 in a minute, and I'm going to give you something that he said in relationship to who were the early B-boys. Beyond skin color and social acceptance, another barrier Latino practitioners had to overcome dealt with breaking stigma of unorthodox expression. Just as African American disco adherents deride the lack of sophistication within breaking, many in the Latino community objected to the dance sporadic movements on the floor. My parents and other adults used to call b-boying, and let me see if I pronounce this right, Dania Ropa, which means wash your clothes, says track 2, because they thought we were ruining our clothes and we felt we were expressing ourselves. Now here's the part where Crazy Lays talks. Crazy Lays of the Rocksteady crew likewise recalled being embarrassed for his family when he first saw his older brother breaking with DJ Africa Islam. Quote, I didn't understand why my brother was throwing himself on the floor, he explains. So there you have it. It was new to Latinos, without question. Here's a quote attributed to track 2. By 1976, Latinos were flowing to what had been mostly a black milieu and revived the b-boy dance that blacks had begun to abandon. And here's a quote here, the jams back then were still close to 90% African American, as were most of the earliest b-boys, says track 2, quoted by Christina Varan and cited by Chang. They were like, yo, breaking is played out whenever the Hispanics would do it. But Latinos gave breaking new life. And just when rap music was starting, Latinos took part in the music too. The DJs behind pioneered rapper DJ Hollywood was a young Latino named Junebug. Other barrier breakers followed. All right, here's JoJo, aka Spider-Man. JoJo, in a recent interview, said this: I know for a fact when I went to some parks, it was rare to see a Puerto Rican dancer breaking, says JoJo, a founding member of the Rocksteady crew. And I'm quoting him here. And when they did, it was like, oh shit, check out the Puerto Rican b-boy, unquote. Given the African American background of the dance, many participants were initially taken aback by seeing visibly Latino practitioners break. He goes on to say, quote, "There wasn't really too many of us out there," unquote, explained JoJo in another interview. Quote, "So, when they seen one of us dance, it was a big thing." All right, so let me play a video where JoJo talks about his humble beginnings in breaking.
But other than that, I'm sorry. I feel so bad that my father died. He died in a car accident, and when he died, my mother couldn't afford the house, the good life. We had to move back to the Bronx. And when we got back to the Bronx, to Manhattan, we needed a place bad to live. We couldn't find. My mother had to find. So there was a lady named Miss Vern Tucker, which was black, who was a good friend of my grandma, who grew up with my grandma friends. She took my mother in and took us in, and her family became my family. Her daughters, her nieces, her nephews all became my cousins. I was the only Spanish kid with a bunch of black cousins back then. Not through blood, but they showed me love like they was blood. You know what I'm saying? And my dancing came from that because they used to have parties. How blacks back in the days, they used to have parties, like Christmas parties, Thanksgiving, and those parties, they would always be dancing. And my grandmother used to say, "Go, JoJo, go, JoJo." And we just do steps, but I wasn't breaking. So now we go back years later to when I met Mark. We was in 82 Schoolyard, and I already knew him, and he was dancing. I seen him breaking, and I was like startled when I see whoa, what the fuck is he doing? What is he doing, Wow. And he got up, and I said, I like that, that's nice. And he said, can you get down? I said, yeah, I can get down. He said, let me see. So JoJo did the steps. And he looked at me like, that's not getting down. This is getting down. And he went down. And when I seen it, I was like, again. So what I did was, I went back home that night, and I just threw myself on the floor and tried it. And I went into some steps, and I said, I got to keep trying to do steps in a circle and come back to the same point. So I just kept practicing until I got that 6th step down. And when I got it, that was it. When I got that, I was skinny. I was only 125 pounds, back then. I was fast, and I took to it fast. So the next time Mark seen me, I did footwork. And he was like, "Where did you learn that from?" And then he said, "How come you didn't do that the last time?" I said, "I just learned it, and that was the beginning for me, dancing."
Here's another gentleman featured in the book, Mr. Ken Swift. Let's read a quote from the book. Now, this quote is basically, or this excerpt from the book is basically Midas speaking, and then he's going to throw in some quotes from Ken Swift. All right. And then I'm going to follow that up with a video of Ken Swift talking about the essence of breaking. I think it's important. Okay. So let's read this. Ken Swift, a highly influential b-boy from the Rocksteady crew, similarly described his hesitancy when he first saw flashes of breaking as a 12-year-old. "I didn't see any Latinos or Hispanics doing it," he admitted. "So I was kind of like, not knowing if I should do it." Believe it or not, his doubt was alleviated. However, when he came across a Latino group known as the #1 Short Shot Crew, they inspired me more because I just saw brothers. But when I saw Puerto Ricans, I felt more comfortable about breaking.
You get it off on your top, but everything about the bulk of what you're going to do is going to be down there. 95% of what you did in breaking was on the floor. There was only maybe 10%, I'll say, was what you did on top. It was very quick on top. Top rock was just something you had to do. When I first went down and did a move on the floor, my boy said, "Yo, that's it right there, Kenny, but you got a top rock first." And I said, "What's that?" He said, "You got a top rock, and he did this step. And I was like, why do I have to do that for? It doesn't even look good. But he was like, "Yo, you have to top rock." And as a kid, you got it. That's the rule. I got it. I'm going to do it. So I started doing those 2 basic steps that didn't have no style and flavor. But when I went down to the floor is where I tried to get it going. And through the years, I understood that I had to really get more rhythmic and funky with, I didn't have to. It's just that the object was to let the music flow through you in that way. So you're funky on top and you're funky on the floor. So quick, fast twisting circular motion was initial. That's the core. You take this out of the equation of where dance is today, breaking is today. It could be related to, of course, acrobatics, gymnastics, martial arts, contortion. There's so many things that we take from that, you know, some people go see breaking and say, oh, that's not a dance, that's just gymnastics. Oh, that's not a dance, that's just flipping. Because we take all those things, but the core of breaking is footwork, circular motion, counterclockwise, clockwise, quick leg motions and leg movements. To me, that's what visually is the core of it, because if you take that out of the equation, it's no longer breaking.
The thing that I find so disrespectful, while Black Americans honor Puerto Rican b-boys for taking breaking to the next level, there's clearly a lack of respect by some in the Puerto Rican community who do not recognize the early Black American breakers as b-boys. I find their critique shameful and out of line. The disrespect has gotten so bad that there are some who wants to redefine what breaking is. They suggest that certain movements must be demonstrated and a dance must perform certain moves on the floor predominantly. This belief totally ignores the origins of the dance. In other words, if a particular b-boy didn't do a particular move or a series of moves, he would be disqualified in some circles from calling himself a b-boy. Now, why would anybody want to be that disrespectful to the history? Now, let me read a portion from Midas' book where he talks about why the dance moved from mostly on top to mostly on the floor. And it reads as follows. In addition, the loop break beats that came to the floor in the era helped younger practitioners add more flavor to something that already existed. However, this did not mean that b-girls and b-boys took more time when they danced. Instead, they concentrated their performances into shorter bursts of intense dynamic displays, matching the quick mixing of the DJ's looping beats on a turntable. For instance, rather than dance for the entire duration of the song, which was common at the Cool Herc parties practices, now they would dance in a circle for less than a minute, conserving energy for more difficult feats and match the shorter fragments of music being rotated. Consequently, the upright dancing of the break, commonly referred today as top rocking, began to recede into the background. Ken Swift of the Rocksteady crew affirmed how his generation began focusing more on floor-based sequences rather than upright dance during this period. 95% of what you did in breaking was on the floor, he explained, adding that incorporating a brief forward lunging two-step when he started because a mentor told him it was just something he had to do. Now, although practitioners continue to dance on their feet, with some even incorporating stylistic flourishes from salsa and other Latin dance styles, they did so mainly out of the regard for the bodily blueprint of breaking. Now, check out what DJ Faze says about how breaking was done originally and how supposedly extending the breaks altered the dance.
On there, doing that part, when the actual break comes, that's when it goes, and then and that's when you're on the floor. So the whole time, hold on. Shout out to Parkchester. Where we at, baby? We in Parkchester right now. Shout out to Parkchester. Get ready to get something to eat. Right. The whole time that the dad was coming in, all right, we looking to catch our victim. What do you mean? Victim. What do you mean? And that's what a real B-boy will tell you. The whole time the music is playing, we looking for our victim. We going to see our victim, which we get ready to rock when the break comes. Okay. All right? So when that break comes and we doing the back, we'll put our legs behind here and go down to the floor and do our shit. That's the break. Okay. That's the break. Okay. So when we up top doing that, that's breaking too. So now, if the other person, DJ, I'm not even gonna say name, was consistently doing just the breaks and playing just the breaks, that means you going to the party on the floor. So you don't gotta, you can't chance no girl, you get nothing. You on the floor, because that's what the break is.
We all know that even though I present this kind of evidence that clearly shows that prominent Puerto Rican practitioners of breaking clearly acknowledging their influences and the environment and the pushback that they received from their community when they got into breaking. Nevertheless, there will still be Puerto Ricans who will still say, oh, that's not the real history, even though you hear it coming out of their own mouths. It is what it is. But let me read this final passage from Midas's book. And it reads like this. However, judging from the testimony of early Latino practitioners, most African American pioneers seem to have been generally receptive to the former's involvement. Indeed, virtually everyone, this is Midas speaking, virtually everyone that I have encountered credits an African American pioneer for teaching them how to break. Bomb 5 lists Eldorado Mike, Phase 2, Cisco Kid, and Beaver as his b-boy mentors. Batch, a founding member of the Bronx Boys rocking crew, said to have been introduced to breaking from a black kid named T.T. Rock. JoJo first learned basic footwork and floor-based transitions from an African American in his junior high school named Mark White and Willie Will. And Track 2 learned to dance from friends who were taught by the Zulu Kings. And the list goes on and on. Without question, the evidence is clear. Black Americans started breaking, Latinos came later. It's okay to be in second place. I've said that before. There's no shame in that. The evidence is the evidence. So if you haven't already subscribed, please do. If you haven't thumbed up the video, please thumb up the video. It helps with the algorithms. And please share this information. So with that being said, peace.
Born in 1856, this brilliant black inventor received over 50 patents, revolutionizing everything from automatic brakes to phonographs. But it's his work on the figure-8 roller coaster that changed the thrill game forever. Originally designed for trains, Woods modified his electric rail system to power an amusement ride, debuting it at Coney Island in 1892. Imagine the excitement of that first ride, the sensation of speed and innovation merging into pure joy. Yet Woods faced incredible resistance. In a time when society couldn't fathom a black man at the forefront of innovation, many of his ideas were stolen. Woods's inventions were so groundbreaking that companies like General Electric, Westinghouse, and American Engineering sought them out. When he passed away in 1910, he was remembered as the Black Thomas Edison. And in a fitting tribute in April 2008, the corner of Stillwell and Mermaid Avenues was named Granville T. Woods Way. So next time you experience the thrill of a roller coaster, remember the genius who made it possible. Granville T. Woods, a name worth celebrating.